I think, to be honest, it's a little bit clown world, and he's completely out of touch in this instance. He's actually embarrassing in this clip. This is an embarrassing attitude to have. All right, hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to react to a clip from the PBD Podcast where they give just the classic boomer take. The name of this clip, it's cut off. It says, "It's not fair. Millennials complain the American dream is dead. In brackets, don't fall for it." Patrick Bet-David Podcast, in my opinion, I'm still pretty much a fan of the show, although I think they've gotten pretty out of touch and pretty quickly. They hired Chris Cuomo onto the show, which I actually defended. I'm fine with that. They took this stance on the Joe Rogan versus Donald Trump thing, saying that it's bad for Donald Trump to attack Joe Rogan because of his personal friendship with Dana White. Like, I think that's a ridiculous take. The average voter in the upcoming election doesn't care about the friendship between two like multi-millionaires, Dana White and Joe Rogan. If there's a little bit of tension in Joe Rogan's life, the average voter is not going to care about that. And I think a lot of the takes coming out of this podcast lately have been very out of touch. So I'm going to let this play here because I just hit this take I completely disagree with, and I'll explain why as the show goes on.
Majority of people now say it's impossible to achieve the American dream. Again, the headline, how do you feel right now? I agree. If you said I agree, you just gave up and they win, right? Listen, majority believe American dream is unattainable. A Newsweek poll reveals that 54% of Americans think it's increasingly difficult to achieve middle-class status. Among millennials, 57% find the middle class unachievable, followed by 59% of Gen Xers, 48% of Gen Zs, and 51% of baby boomers. This perception is reinforced by who? Not an expert, by a TikTok user. Like Inc., who said, "I cannot afford to live anywhere alone despite earning 3 times the federal minimum wage. Changing economic realities, the middle class in the U.S. have been shrinking, with Pew Research noticing a decline from 61% of households in 1971 to 51% in 2023. And Vivian, a former Wall Street Street employee known as Your Rich BFF on TikTok, highlighted that the traditional American dream is outdated, stating, "We cannot use the same playbook our parents gave us to live life today. The shift toward lower-paying service jobs and automation has exacerbated this trend." Tom, your thoughts? I got a lot of thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours first.
So whenever I see American Dream, I always say to people...
So they open up with that. You see, Patrick Bet-David gives a tell to what he's going to say about, like, you're letting them win. My main criticism of this clip will be that you can say individual advice to any one person, say, okay, you need to beat the odds. But from a policy perspective, if a majority of people are saying something, the take that just tell all of them to beat the odds and not be a victim is ridiculous. Something is fundamentally broken. You can't have the average person totally priced out of the American dream and just tell every single person to just beat the odds. That's fundamental. That's just, like, by definition, never going to happen. So I just want to cut in there because I haven't really got to the point. Maybe they take a little bit longer in this clip, kind of leading up to their takes, but Patrick Bet-David basically broke down there what they're going to talk about, at least here.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? You know, I feel like I'm in an episode of The Princess Bride. That word doesn't mean what you think it means. You know, inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Right. So when I say American dream, I said, what do you mean? What does that mean to you? What are you trying to achieve? Because
what do you mean? What does it mean? It means home ownership and enough money to live your life, have children, raise your children, have a house, have a wife or husband or whatever. That's the American dream. Don't try to change it. Everyone knows what the American dream is. Maybe 1 or 2 vacations a year, enough money that you're not thinking about every single bill that comes up constantly.
if you automatically paint a wall in front of yourself and say, well, that's the American dream, I can never get over the wall, that's a negative thinking. So the question...
So, man, that's ridiculous. This whole thing now is going to be set up along this, that all these millennials that can't afford homes and that it's like so much harder than it was for their parents to get a home, they complain about it. You can't just tell them it's a negative thinking. You're going to make these millennials literally lose their minds. This is such a boomer take by this guy here. A negative thinking. I hate the way he's already framing this. One sec.
Question is, What does that mean for you? What do you mean American dream? What did you just talk about? Positive forward planning and optimism, you and Pat. Yep. You know what? I want to look forward and see maybe I find a 3-bedroom place to put myself in a preparation zone for being married and having a kid. That is a positive forward thought. But in the American dream, well, I can't do the American
I mean, on one income, you're not going to afford that, dude. A 3-bedroom house or 3-bedroom anything on one income where you're setting yourself up for marriage. How are you going to afford that? You have to be a substantially above average earner, like way, way above, to be able to afford that early on in life. Or you just have inheritance from your wealthy relatives.
Dream. Maybe it's, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do what my parents did, have 2 kids before they were 30 years old, me being one of them, right? Mm-hmm. And bought a house in the suburbs. Well, maybe you're not going to be able to do that. Why? The suburbs are different. The cities are different. They're being rebuilt. Housing is in a different place. So when I hear this, I say, what do you mean, what is the American dream? It's the American dream for you. So how do you improve yourself? How do you optimistically prepare forward? And yes, there are things like inflation that if you sit there like a frog boiled in the pot, you look around and go, oh my gosh, I can't afford this. That's very true. And you should proactively evaluate the leaders you vote for and vote for the people you think are going to make it better. Meanwhile, back to you, where do you go? So when I look at the American dream, it's what are people.
So again, the whole clip, they're responding here to an article, millennials complaining that the American dream is gone, but they're not looking at it from the structure of why do they think this? What has changed economically in the country? They're taking this to the biggest okay boomer mentality of let's give specific individual advice to these people in terms of how you overcome these hurdles or how you beat the odds, like I mentioned earlier. This is completely misguided and completely unfair and not about what the topic, the conversation should be about here, which is how do we improve the structure of America in this case, or just global economies in the world. Like I live in Canada. This problem is even worse here, actually. Our wages are lower and our homes on average are more expensive. But that should be the conversation here. They're changing this to, again, the biggest okay boomer mentality of just telling all these kids, here, you got to deal with the hardships of life and you got to overcome. You can't do this when you're talking about the policy of why so many millennials in America, by the way, they feel the way they do because it's true. They don't feel like they can't own a home. They can't own a home.
People defining as the American dream. If it's living like your great grandparents did, coming home from World War II, doing this, and this, or living like your parents did in the 70s, live in the suburbs and do this, and this. No, it's going to be different. It's a different generation. It's a different time in America.
So it's going to be different. So what does that mean? You're just not going to have it? Like you just can live on the internet and live in a basement suite and go on YouTube and TikTok for the rest of your life, play video games?
So I think you have to positively set up what is your own dream and what is your vision for your career.
So what's the alternative though, dude? What is the alternative? These boomers drive me crazy with this attitude. Shut up. What is your alternative? What is the alternative to owning a home if you don't own one? It's living in a basement suite. It's moving to Asia or Mexico and just trying to find cheaper rental values there. And I'm sure the people that are native to those areas don't love that, but that's the alternative. Or just living in a basement suite with some landlord until you're 80 years old. What is the alternative to owning a home? Set up your own American dream where you live on the street, you live under a bridge.
And how to find side hustles and do things that put yourself in a better position. That's what I think about it. And
Side hustles, dude, come on. These people that had the best economic road of any generation in history are so out of touch. Have a bunch of side hustles. I could have one 40-hour work week job, bunch of promotions, stock market that went up 10% a year, a lot of times defined benefit pension plans, which were amazing. And for you, just have 4 side hustles and still don't have enough money for rent.
Dream, I think a lot of times is an election year ploy to get people to think negative. Oh, you'll never be able to do what my grandparents did.
Very well put, Tom. I'm sorry, Adam. I have so much thoughts on this.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Well, I'll tell you, the old American dream is dead, straight up. But when one door closes, another door opens. The new.
But usually when I watch this show, I don't agree with this guy's name is Sauce, but so far I agree with him in this clip.
New American dream is as alive and as vibrant as ever. It just depends on what your definition of the American dream is. Back in the day, in the 80s, there used to be a phrase, and tell me if you're familiar with this, Tom, you probably remember this: he who dies with the most toys wins. Remember that? Where you
Yeah, it was
to,
a pop culture T-shirt. It was, it was a consumption mindset. It was a,
bingo, consumption mindset. You needed
conspicuous consumption, so people see what you've got.
Exactly. So you needed to have the house, you needed to have the cars, you needed the picket fence, you needed the 2.2 kids, you needed to have the dog. Everything needed. You worked at the same company for 40 years. There was no turnover. Everything was the quote unquote American dream. Well, that's changed. Especially for young people, the cost of living, the math don't math anymore. So everyone has the same big three expenses. I've said this before: housing, transportation, and food and beverage. If you just do what everyone has always done and just have your house, have your mortgage, have your car, have your car payment, go out, eat once a week, buy lunch, food and beverage, the math doesn't add up. You will be broke. So you have to do something differently.
So at least you're getting some he's correct. At least you're getting this take on this show. The two people, Patrick Bet-David and the other guy's named Tom, give the boomer take. This is a little bit better so far.
The aim of these games today is having financial freedom. That's all it is. Whether you want to move, whether you want to work remote, whether you want to take a job elsewhere, whether you want to get married, whether you want to have kids, that's up to you. And then that's the money side of things. The other component of things is, what's the dynamic of relationships these days? I feel like there's a lot of confusion out there with men and women. Is the future female? Do girls run the world, or does the patriarchy run the world? Which one is it? I feel like there's a lot of men out there that are confused, especially young men, as what their role is in society. Back in the day, men got value from their brawn and their muscles and being a provider and being.
This is interesting to bring up actually by Sosnick, and this is a little bit of a different subject from the video that kind of I thought this conversation was going to go in. But if you do have a male and a female both earning an average salary, you still can make some of this stuff work if you pool those salaries together, and then you don't care necessarily about the status too much of where you live. Like maybe you don't live downtown in a major city, maybe you live in a small city, or you live in the suburb of a smaller city. You can make it work. It just takes a lot more cooperation, and if you follow like the statistics or just a lot of the dialogue that happens online, you'll see. But it does reflect, I believe, very similarly to real life. People think sometimes real life and online are completely different places. I don't know. I see a lot of the same trends, that there's not a whole lot of cooperation and realism around a male that earns an average salary and a female that earns an average salary trying to get together and be like, hey, how do we achieve the American dream, or whatever country live in the dream, have a house, raise children. It's a lot of people just trying to like keep holding off to get the absolute best they possibly can. And then they just a lot of times miss the boat. And that's turning up in a ton of statistics among young people about how many men and women are unmarried and single. It's quite crazy.
A protector.
My point is, if there was just more realism, I think you still could make it happen, pooling those two salaries together. It's just there's so much tension and friction about, and this is kind of what Sauce is talking about what's the male's role, what's the female's role, how do we cooperate, how do we do this and strive towards something better, like strive towards the prosperity of our family. There's just so much like sort of brainwashing from social media or whatever it happens to be. Just the economic realities perhaps is a bit of a brainwash. You think everyone, or you think because you know one person who's a millionaire that I should be a millionaire too, or I should be with a millionaire as well. So I think Sauce actually, so far in this clip, I'm pretty impressed.
Most men are working in an office right now. You're not protecting shit. You don't necessarily have to provide anything. A lot of women are saying, I don't need no man. I got my own bag. Okay, good luck with that. Let me know how the Chelsea Handler lifestyle works out for you. So men are confused. And then women are confused because they're like, well, should I get married and have kids? Should I work till I'm 40 and become a millionaire? How does this work? Like the whole Harrison Butker speech that he gave in front of that college was very apropos of where we're at these days. On the day these women are graduating, he's like, hey, listen, a little hot tip for you. The guys don't really care about your job. Go ahead and have some kids. People are having less kids in America.
Where are you going?
I'm saying American dream has changed, and you need to define what the American dream is to you. Don't let that define what you...
Patrick Bet-David actually cut on. I thought Adam was on a good roll there. This is actually incredibly... And Adam's probably the one so far in this clip for sure who's the most down to earth and the most connected to reality, because these other guys, Patrick Bet-David is so rich. I think this other Tom guy is pretty wealthy as well and a little bit older, I believe. But what everything Adam is saying right now is very true. There's a lot of chaos in the market of younger people trying to sort through their lives, and especially in big cities. I've noticed it's a little bit better in a smaller city, but that chaos is just leading to people being like, I can't own a house by myself, and when I go in the dating market, it's not going like the way you think it would in terms of an average guy getting with an average woman, going and finding an average home and raising a like quote unquote average family. You get like 95% of the benefit of life just doing that. Sure, you don't get a private jet, but aside from that, you get basically everything else. If you can go on a, like if your money gets a little bit above the bare minimum, you have a pretty great life. But I think social media for sure is a huge part of this. Everyone doesn't think that. You think I need to keep holding off till I get the top that I could possibly get, and then you give up everything else in pursuit of this. And some people get it, but not very many. And by the way, if you do get it, how much better is your life really? You get all the great stuff of life just with like a quote unquote average life. If you still live in a first world country, like an American fully developed country with clean water, food, shelter, all this stuff, if you can raise family, have friends, etc., you get all of life pretty much. You just don't get like the very top luxury Four Seasons hotel private jet experience, but so many people are giving up almost everything you can get in life for just the lottery ticket of being like a little tiny bit better off. Ridiculous, I think.
I think it should be.
Okay. Do you have anything to say?
I just remember, you remember George Carlin, what he said?
Yeah.
He said about the American dream, he said the reason they call it the American dream is because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Yeah. And by the way, and I've listened to all of those jokes.
That's pretty like, it's kind of, I don't think it's very true. The American dream was alive and well over the last 50 years. Maybe not so much anymore, but George Carlin was funny, but he also said some stuff where you're like, he's just trying, I think, too hard to be edgy, but he still is like one of the best ever.
And I've listened to all of these, shots that I can't do this and poor me and all this other stuff. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of my kids when kids talk like that.
So this is I've seen part of the clip. I haven't seen the whole clip. Patrick Bet-David here says something that this show almost sucks now because of this statement. This statement that comes out of his mouth is unbelievable.
Adults shouldn't talk like that. My kids talk like that. You know what the sentence starts off with? What's the 2 words? What's the 3 words? Give me the 3 words.
Why can't I?
No, it's the 3 words that kids use. It's not fair. It's not fair. A grown man shouldn't use those words.
Again, they're totally missing the point in this. And if this is the dominant, if this narrative, if this kind of gets allowed to become the dominant narrative when you're talking about millennials versus the boomers in terms of the experience they have and achieving the American dream, if we let this kind of stuff kind of win out, this idea, millennials are so screwed and Gen Z is so screwed because this is the advice you'd give to one person, and it's good advice. If you give it to like some guy that knows you personally, like say it's your nephew or your friend's son, you say to him, hey, this is the way it is now. We have wealth inequality. We had central bank printing of money. We had this zero interest rate policy, whatever. A lot of money flowed up to the rich people, and asset prices have gone way up. So you have such a harder time buying a home than I did, for example, when I was your age. But you have the internet. You have all these other advantages that you can use to make money. So you have to deal with this and go for it, and don't complain too much, and still be positive about life, and like try to appreciate the things in life that make you happy, etc. That's fine advice for one person, but he's making this issue about millennials not being able to afford homes to this like out of touch boomer, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go get it. You can't do this. Is so stupid when you're talking about the policy of millennials not being able to own homes and feeling helpless. The average person in a country should be able to experience that country. If you have a country like this is true in America, true in Canada, true in pretty much every developed country for the most part, the median worker is screwed. They have no path to home ownership. That's ridiculous. You're not going to be able to convince every single person to just increase their GDP per capita or their earnings by like 20% just by giving them some passionate football coach speech. You need a country that has a middle class that, by the way, you don't just give them stuff. A middle class that if they work 40 hours a week and do not have destructive habits, they can achieve the dream of home ownership and just being generally happy. You can't have this situation where only the overachievers are going to win. Over time, that's not going to work. That leads to terrible outcomes in countries. So much conflict between the haves and have-nots. There's such a short-sighted, ridiculous, out-of-touch football coach garbage speech that, again, you can give to one person, not in terms of talking about the policies of an entire country.
Because what you're doing is you're giving the other person power. What you're indirectly saying is, I'm helpless. You're not. So for me, a part of this is, I'll give you the true side, that this is factual, but it's mathematical that it's true. And then the other side is that you're choosing to accept it. One of the biggest fights I ever had with my dad is he'll remember.
Who's he going off? He's just making up a straw man in his head. Who's choosing to accept it? It's an article about millennials complaining the American dream is dead. Doesn't mean they just that doesn't mean that those millennials have just given up on life. I'm sure they're still employed, but what are you supposed to say? Millennials can't go into a situation where they're being interviewed or doing a poll or just trying to air their grievances, say it's online, and say, hey, things are a little tough for us. Who's going to listen to that? You have to say, look, I can't afford a home. This is bullshit. The American dream is dead. Or just go in there and say, things are a little hard for me. No one's going to listen to you if you say the second way.
Remember this. My dad and I were sitting and we're talking about marriage. And he had married my mother twice, and he had divorced my mother twice. Let me say that one more time. I told this story the other day, yesterday in New York. They're like, I've never heard that before. To the chief, investment officer, Charmaine, right? The Persian lady, really very, very smart lady. Very
Crazy
successful,
sharp.
by the way. Yeah.
Really sharp.
I said, yeah, my mother and my father got married, boom, 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 boom. So it's really, yeah. I said, so he would say, let me tell you, marriage is this, and marriage is that, and woman this, and woman. I'm like, listen, do you want grandkids? Of course I want grandkids. The way you're talking to me, you will never get grandkids from me. What are you talking about? Dude, you got 3 other siblings. You got 2 brothers, Johnny and Victor. I love them. And you got a sister, Ellen. Guess what? What? None of them gave me a cousin. They all live past their 60s. How come I don't have a cousin? Guys, I got 4 uncles and aunties. I got 1 cousin. How the hell is that possible? Did you guys hear what I just said? Mm-hmm. I got 4 uncles. I got 3 uncles and I got 1 auntie. My mom's got a brother. Had 1 kid. He's the only one that had a kid. I said, do you want me to give you grandkids or no? Then stop saying this kind of stuff. I don't want to hear this language. This language is constantly like you're discouraging me from wanting to take the risk of having a family. Do you know how hard marriage is? Oh my God, it's hard. You never hear me talk about how easy marriage is. When have you ever heard me say marriage is easy? It's not easy.
Yeah, but he's talking about here like a cultural feeling of, I'm going to go back actually just to make sure I know what
1 auntie, my dad, Ellen, guess what? What? In New York, they're like, I've never heard that before. Divorced my mother twice. Remember this. My dad and I were sitting and we're talking about marriage. And he had married my mother twice, and he had divorced my mother twice. Let me say that one more time. I told this story the other day, yesterday in New York. They're like, I've never heard that before. To the chief, investment officer, Charmaine, right? The Persian lady, really very, very smart lady. Very
Crazy
successful,
sharp.
by the way. Yeah.
Really sharp.
I said, yeah, my mother and my father got married, boom, 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 boom. So it's really, yeah. I said, so he would say, let me tell you, marriage is this, and marriage is that, and woman this, and woman. I'm like, listen, do you want grandkids? Of course I want grandkids.
I want to get into it, but how he's complaining about basically how tough marriage is. That's so different than economic realities. If a home where you live, close to where you live, is $700,000, that's not like a difference in culture or a difference in expectations for marriage. That's just, I make 70 grand a year and I can't afford that home. And there's nothing I can tell the bank in terms of like trying to bridge the gap on our differences. It's going to be a yes or a no. This is I think a poor example.
Saying this kind of stuff.
And I don't even know.
I don't want to hear this language. This language is constantly like you're discouraging me from wanting to take.
About, don't be a victim, overcome the odds. That this isn't relevant to this conversation. If you want to talk to one person, fine, but this is totally out of touch boomer nonsense.
The risk of having a family. Do you know how hard marriage is hard with the challenge and with the sleepless nights, with all of it? It's not supposed to be easy. But I'm not going, oh my God, feel sorry for me because I'm married and I got kids and all this other stuff. That's the language of a child. And adults, we don't speak that way. By the way, all of us.
So what are people supposed to do then, Patrick Bet-David? What if homes, like I live in Canada, it's even worse here. And it could happen in America, we'll see. It takes 20 years in, even longer, in Ontario, our biggest province, it takes over 20 years if you're in the average salary to save the down payment on a home. So I'll say that one more time, over 20 years if you're in the average salary in Ontario, just for the down payment on a home. It's not even to own the home outright. Recently in Canada, one of our major newspapers, National Post, posted that millennials, under the way that we're building homes in this country right now at the rate, millennials won't be able to enter the home market until we're in our 80s. Is that just an issue of complaining or having like a victim mentality or talking like a child, like you're saying? How is that? It's just literally impossible for the average person. And again, you can't legislate a country on the exceptions to the rule. If you're going to do that, people can strive for excellency in their own life. You can't have a country based on that. You have to have a country built in the middle for the middle class, the average person, or you're going to have just complete collapse of society, which has happened throughout history. So this attitude that Patrick Bet-David has to this problem is just completely wrong, completely ridiculous. I think, to be honest, it's a little bit clown world, and he's completely out of touch in this instance. He's actually embarrassing in this clip. This is an embarrassing attitude to have. Just be okay with it. You're not going to own a home till you're 80 years old. Just be fine with it. Just have a better attitude. Don't talk like a child. Come on, Patrick.
Do you know why we speak that way? Do you know why we speak that way? It's not fair. Why does the other guy get a promotion, not me? It's not fair. Why does the other guy get the right eyeballs and not me? It's not fair. Why is the other guy that get the nice, they share his YouTube channel on the cover of YouTube. How come they don't share our podcast? It's not fair. What do you mean? We all do it. Don't fall for that trap. I think we're being throttled. What's the word? Like our channel's
shadow banned.
We're being shadow banned and throttled. Then change the way you communicate. Maybe you're too. What's the word?
Extreme, or
you're too extreme, or maybe you're too.
How does this apply though? If you can't afford a home, if you can't afford a home, you can't afford a home. If you get a job as something in a union or like a nurse or a teacher, say you're in the States and you're a teacher, you can't just like work harder and make your salary go up by 50%. You're going to have to get a bunch of side hustles like that Tom guy said. And I mean, you're working full time, bunch of side hustles. That's no answer. Like drive Uber or whatever, do other things like that. How's that an answer to an entire country? This is what he's saying here about if you're a content creator and you're going to change your strategy up so you don't get shadow banned, fine. If you're a teacher and you're capped at whatever, $60,000, $70,000 or whatever it is in the States, probably even potentially less, what are you supposed to do?
Conspiratorial?
Yeah. Maybe you're too much. It's a different word I wanted to use. Like, that's like too exaggerating, too
hyperbolic.
No, it's a different word. It's a S. You're too sensational. You're too sensational, bro. Maybe tone it down a little bit. And by the way, when I hear professional people speak, do you know how everybody speaks when I was at Goldman? Yeah. So on this floor, what we have is this, and let me share with you why we decided to put this thing on the 12th floor, on the 11th floor, on the 41st floor we have this. And it's like, well, what do you think? Well, because, when you think about it, here's what's going on. And you're hearing these meetings. Mm-hmm. And you're hearing, how long have you been with the company? 41 years.
Wow.
How long have you been with the company? 25 years. How long the goal is to be here for this many years because this, that. What kind of money does that person make? Well, she makes around 5 to 7 million. She makes 5 to 7 million, yes. Good for her. What does she do? What is he doing? What is David Solomon's salary? $31 million. Go Google it. What kind of money he's got? What do you think the stock of Goldman's worth? What do you think these guys are doing? Oh, let's start, so these guys are this. But they probably brought down the level of emotionalness and they increased the score of reasonable, making better. Since 21 years old, 4 business conferences, Every year. Tony Robbins, Tom Hopkins, Inc. Conference. Every year, 4 business conferences every year. What did that do to me? You know what's the thing about every business conference you go to? What's going to be 30 to 50% of messaging? Stop making excuses. You can recreate yourself.
Dude.
Go read some business books.
Imagine dealing with this like a policy meeting. If you're talking about the policy to improve the environment or like improve the lake, like say there's the lake has a bunch of toxins in it or something. Just stop making excuses. Just pick them up. Work longer. Just fix the lake. Fix the lake. Tell the people that work at the lake to work harder. To like this is not an issue of working harder. This is just a structural issue. The engineering of the economy has changed in a completely fundamental way. This is not a mindset problem. I know I've made this point before, but dude, again, like in Canada, you can't own a home on an average salary here until you're in your 80s. Unless you like in Ontario, again, our biggest province. This is true though. The problem is basically the entire country, aside from a very few small communities in quite like rural areas of the country, like the prairie provinces. But the average, over 40% of people in Ontario to help get their first home are getting a gift from their parents. The average gift is over $70,000. So if you don't have like rich parents, what do you say to someone in Ontario? Just have a different mentality. Just drop ship. Just blah, blah, blah.
You can find a way to get better. You can choose to lead. And you're kind of like, dude, like, but you don't understand. My parents got through 2 divorces. Stop making excuses. I hate you. No problem. You're still going to go back to your life. Is it going to be good for you to keep hating me? Do something about your life. He's right.
It's kind of weird, to be honest, that this guy's so rich and he feels the need to go on this podcast. Instead of just dealing with the issue at hand, he wants to yell at younger people to stop making excuses. That's a little bit weird. Like, what are you doing? Why can't you just look at the situation for what it is and deal with it from like a structural engineering perspective instead of just saying that younger people essentially are lazy and making excuses? It makes no sense. I don't get the impulse to want to do this.
See, that's the thing that people have to choose. First business book I wrote, it was called 25 Laws for Doing the Impossible. It was 3 steps. Recreate yourself. Step number 1, it's 10 keys. Number 2, identify your cause. What's the cause you want to, what's the sword people say you want to?
Plant your flag.
Plant your flag. Yeah, what is your cause? I identify my cause. Boom. Last one. Go make history. And law number 25, make a bold move. What's a bold move? I'm going to move to such and such. I'm going to stop doing this. You going to stop doing that? I am. There's no way you could do that. Watch me. I went 17 months without sex at 24 years old. My friends are like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, don't invite me to clubs. I'm done. There's no way you can pull it off. You'll never pull it off. I did all the distractions, late night calls, arguments with girls and all this, calling Maria another name. It's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking to my cousin. No, you're not talking to your cousin. You know how many times you screw up mistakes like that? You know how annoying that is? Get on the phone for 30 minutes while you're at work trying to explain to her why you messed up her name. You can't use autocorrect. Back in the days, Nextel didn't have autocorrect. So you have to, you really call me Maria. I'm sorry. Or you say,
okay, then change what you're talking about then. Don't have this about the millennials issue with owning homes. Make this a podcast or a segment of your podcast called How to Get Rich. Do that and give advice on that, because there's some segment of the population that wants to be rich and is willing to whatever, take the risks or work hard enough or come up with the ideas to get rich, but then talk about that. But you're talking about the issue of an entire country. You have to have a middle class. I don't think, maybe these guys just don't understand that, or they don't know history well enough to think you can't just have a society with a small percentage of people having all the money. There's a limit to this. Probably a lot of countries right now in the West and in the world in general are testing that limit, but make this, the segment of this show should just be how to get rich. Then you can do that, but you're totally confusing what the issue is.
no, it's my cousin Maria. Introduce me to your cousin Maria. You don't have a Maria cousin. Now you have a problem. You're dealing with this, Vinny.
I've been there.
Life is hard, man.
Now you're out there trying to recruit for a Maria out there. Anybody know Maria?
Can you just act as my cousin? Yeah, cousin from which side? Uncle side. I heard none of your uncles have a kid.
You just told me that nobody had.
You're a liar. You're screwed. You're screwed where you're at, right? This Maria person I've been looking for 25 years.
Although Adam would be a good Maria.
Well, there you go. Tom had to do that. He's been waiting to do this for a while.
Yeah,
But you know what's the moral of the story?
Leah
Here's
Landis.
all I'm saying to you. Get the stats. Rob, can you pull up compound interest if you invest $100,000 between 0, 6, 12%? Can you just pull this up? Here's the most basic thing I show that, you know, you look at this and you're like, oh, shit, that does kind of make sense. Pull up compound interest 6 and 12%, whatever. Put 6 and 12%. And go to images. This is how life works, folks, okay? Go right there to the second one. Actually, you know what? Let me see what the first one looks like. Zoom in a little bit. If it's that one, we'll use.
You can't get the advantages of compound interest when you're 30 yet. You can kind of. But you need to get in the freaking game first. You need to own a home. You can't just save money and sit. You can't live in your. You could, I guess, if your parents want you to, but live in your parents' basement until you're 45 and put a bunch of money in the stock market when you're 25 and keep doing that and then buy a house. Maybe that could work for you. But do you want to do that? What woman is going to want to be with you when you're 25 years old, living with your parents, and you say to her, "I'm going to live here for another 30 years because I want the compound interest to go up on my investments." The point of the American dream and the point of an advanced economy is you can live your life, afford a home, afford vehicles, go on vacation once a year, still work hard, have a little bit of money left for like a nest egg or an emergency rainy day situation, and also have a little bit of money, 5-10%, to keep putting in the stock market. So what's the point that you're making here? Again, this whole clip is very frustrating to me.
Use this one. No, not this one. Go to because I wanted to compare with others. Zoom in a little bit to see if shows. Yeah, so what I want is I wanted comparing the difference between 6% to 12%. Comparing is what I wanted to do. Just put the all the way to the right, top right. What is that one? The colors.
What's the
Zoom
point?
in. Does it show interest rates? Compound interest? No. So did you
Try that middle one with the orange graph, Rob.
No, it's not the one. Okay, let me use this because this is the point to make here. Compare return 6% to 12%. $100,000. Okay, see if this comes up because the biggest factor when you see this, here's what
the point he's making actually probably makes the opposite point that he's thinking. It's like compare the difficulty of your life if when you're in your 20s everything is 30 or 40 or 50% more expensive. How is that going to impact your life moving forward? It's like the opposite of what he's trying to say. The compounding of that every year, having to deal with the fact that things are 30, 40, 50% in many cases, like right now housing in America, than it was for your parents. Like in the 1980s in America, a home, it was, I believe, I got to double check the math. I did a video on this, but it's something like homes now are twice as expensive, but salaries have only gone up 60% for the average person. So the homes back in 1980 were half as like cheaper, half as expensive, but the salaries for the average person in America has only gone up 60%. So you know what I mean? Like right now, you're dealing with, compared to 1980, 60% more money, but homes are double the price. So it's actually way harder than it was back in 1980 to own a home. I hope you understand what it says. Again, don't quote me exactly on that math. I know it's directionally accurate for sure, but that's just a video that I made recently on my channel. But so that kind of makes the point against what he's saying. If life is that much more expensive all the time for a young person, it's going to compound the other way, and you're not going to have enough money, disposable income to invest.
What you'll notice when you compare these, what you'll notice is after the first 12 years, you don't see a sudden change. It's the same amount of money. Okay, is this the one?
Oh, there you go. That stacks it all right up. Move it over a little bit more.
Okay, look at that. Look at that right there. If you invest, what is it, $1,000 investment? At year 10, what difference do you notice between 2%, 4%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%? Zero. What do you notice at year 20?
Skyrockets when you.
What do you notice at year 30? You're not even in the same league.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not even in the same league. Here's why, folks. The reason for it is if I'm obsessed with improving myself and reading books at a pace of 36 a year, you read 2 books a year and you're consuming a bunch of bullshit content all year long, then I'm reading good books, you're reading romance novels. I'm around people that have big plans. You're not around people that have big plans.
You're totally missing the mark of what they should be talking about. This should just be called How to Be Excellent. How to Chase Excellence as a segment. There's nothing to do with the average experience for somebody who's a millennial in America complaining that homes are too expensive. There's nothing to do with it. You're just talking about how to become rich.
And gamblers and alcoholics and party guys and chasing skirts. You could be way ahead of me at 22 years old, and you got the fanciest.
And by the way, you can't even have a country where everybody wants to do this. You can't do that. You have to have a country. A lot of people in your country just have to be employees, or no one's going to be able to do the work. And that's good. That's fine. That makes you Like, those people are good people. You need people to be teachers and nurses and police officers and firemen and work on, like, be an electrician or a plumber or what have you. Not everybody's going to be this entrepreneur. I read books. I do this. I do that. I'm taking advantage of compound interest in every way of my life. I'm measuring all, like, not everyone's going to succeed at that, for one. And you just can't have a country with just people that think along these lines. You need a bunch of people who are brave enough to go into the military and then become a cop or what have you, things like that.
Degree from USC, and I got nothing. We're not in the same world by 32. By 42, we don't even know the same people. It's game over. It's a very different thing. If you think long term, the reason why the rich keep getting rich and the poor keep getting poor is because of compound interest. They're making 12% on their money. You're making 1%. You can never compete with them. And the gap is going to get wider. The same with people that read and improve themselves. So don't.
Oh, man. I don't even disagree with that necessarily. It just has nothing to do with what they're talking about. You can't do this. You can't just have a society and a country for the
off with this
1%
trap
people.
of feel sorry for me. That's why I'm not winning. It's Biden's fault. It's Kamala's fault. It's all this stuff. Vote accordingly. Vote better. But at the same time, put the onus on you. Don't put the onus on somebody else, because that means your dreams are not going to become a reality. The contest we announced with Manette, guys, is.
Okay, so I think that might. I'm just to see if the rest of this might just be ads. Yeah, so that looks like the end of the clip. I'll see if there's anything else at the end here.
Homeschooling, parenting, kids, marriage, finance, preparing.
Yeah, so I guess that's the end of the clip. But anyway, I guess I made my thoughts there. They're known. Yeah, thank you for watching the video. If you made it this far, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll make sure to reply to this video for sure. Because when I do some of these longer videos, I'll make sure definitely to read the comments and then reply. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Again, thank you for watching. Like the video if you want to, and have a good day.